Israel Updates with Gadi and Mike Duran. Hello and welcome to Tablet's Israel Update. It is now the 10th of July. It's 1 year, 9 months, and 3 days since this war began. I'm Gadi in Tel Aviv, and joining me at the headquarters of the Hudson Institute is the esteemed Mike Duran.
Only esteemed? That's
Yes.
all I get.
That's a good one. Last time you were deputy Mike Duran, no?
Okay.
My deputy Mike Duran is at the Hudson Institute. My assistant at the Hudson Institute.
Your intern.
My sidekick.
Yeah.
Every show needs a sidekick, Mike. And
You
I think the problem is that we are both vying for the lead role.
When I was years ago, we were sitting around the dinner table, me, my wife, and my kids, and we were talking about what superpowers we wanted to have. And my younger daughter said that she wanted to be a sidekick. And it really bothered me. I thought, why do you want to be Robin and not Batman, or Batgirl and not Batman? What?
I actually know what your superpower is. I don't know if you allow people to tell.
I'll be interested to hear, but let me finish the story, because it was really bothering me.
At the very beginning of the show, right up front. Yeah, do it. Why not?
Yeah, why not? But she said that she wanted to be able to read minds. And I couldn't understand, and then it dawned on me that she confused psychic with sidekick. So anyway, did I break all the rules?
Yeah. So I wanted to say that I know what your superpower is, but I'm not sure you like to make that public. So I'll tell you what my superpower is. It's completely redundant. I know what Yair Lapid is thinking always. It's completely useless. It was even more useless before he was in politics. I just wake up and say, "Oh, I know what he's thinking about that. Who cares?"
It is. So what is my superpower?
You know what Obama thinks.
That's true.
That is much more interesting, and especially this week, because once the cronies are beginning to be investigated, or his henchmen, as they are now portrayed, as I've thought about them all the time, is the heat surround. What is Obama thinking, Mike?
He's thinking about it's time for him to become the elder statesman, to kind of hover above it all and
hover above.
Yeah,
an intelligence community assessment. So it's an amazing week, right? It's all the media in Israel was filled with memes around this picture of Bibi in the foreground, out of focus, and Trump looking at him with this loving look. And Yotam Zimri, one of the smartest pundits here, said, "I wish my wife would look at me like that." So and this is a stab in the it's a poke in the eye to the anti-Bibi press, and the reminder of how they gleefully explain that Bibi has ruined the relationship with the United States.
No, it's also a poke in the eye of Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and everyone else.
Oh, absolutely.
We're arguing that the devious Jew was, through his devious machinations, the devilish Jew was dragging the United States into wars not in its own interest.
I'm sure they now say it's even more devilish. Look, he put his spell on Trump.
He did. He put his spell on Trump. But we're going to talk about this, of course.
Absolutely.
They had about 17 meetings. So clearly the optics, both men are consummate managers of their
media. But Mike, save this for after the news, please, because we have to tell people what happened this week.
Oh, okay. So here, quickly, the news. But before the news, Gadi, like us, subscribe to us. Like us, subscribe, leave a comment.
Finally, at the top of the show.
Yeah, there we go. I did what you told me to do. And I managed to foil your attempt to move to a new segment at the same time. I was both I was
That's
both obedient. I was both obedient and disobedient at the same
that was a
time.
passive aggressive judo sadomasochistic move. It's very impressive.
Yeah. I don't know why it was sadomasochistic, but anyway. So on to the news. Gadi, Israel and Hamas appear to be approaching a ceasefire deal in the Gaza Strip. I was actually at a reception for Prime Minister Netanyahu at Blair House last night, and I heard from a lot of people that they expect there will be a deal. We'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Of course, as we said, Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump met 23, 27, 16 times. I'm not sure. I lost count. They met so many times this week. Many in the press are reporting that Syria is on its way to normalizing relations with Israel and joining the Abraham Accords. Other countries rumored to possibly be joining the peace agreements include Mauritania, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia. Uh, we'll talk about that. I'm a bit skeptical about all that, but we'll talk about it. Uh, Gadi, on July 5th, our friend Elliot Kaufman from the Wall Street Journal reported that five sheikhs in Hebron sent a letter to the Israeli government stating that they wanted to cooperate with Israel and create their own emirate in Hebron. That means to throw off the Palestinian Authority. We'll also say a few words about that, I'm sure. And finally, the Houthis are still there, Gadi. They launched a ballistic missile at Israel last night.
Are you
Uh,
telling me that, Mike?
you
I
know,
think it was a few minutes to 5. Now we have this application which wakes you up about 10 minutes before the siren, and it's very aggressive. And I thought, haven't we already defeated Iran? And then I remembered the Houthis.
the Houthis are still there. I got a few words about them later. But anyway, in addition to attacking two Greek ships or Greek flag ships, they also took hostages when the crew members abandoned the ship that they sunk. Okay, over to you.
Yeah, so let's start with the meeting because it is incredible, right? It's our friend Lee Smith wrote a wonderful piece in Tablet, and he said it's like the Reagan Thatcher relationship, perhaps even like the Winston Churchill and Franklin Delano Roosevelt relationship, for which I have one small caveat is that Roosevelt never really liked Churchill very much. Not as much as Trump seems to like Netanyahu. He did cooperate with him and everything else. He saw him as a partner, but he didn't never liked him. Churchill was very intense. Some of his the memoirs of some family members complained about him going on at dinner. So, Dad, can you pass on the salt? Never in the history of the universe has blah blah blah. That was a really bad take on Churchill. Everything he said was elegant.
You know the famous story about Roosevelt walking. Churchill was staying in the
Roosevelt was
guest.
not walking. That story is not true.
Roosevelt came in,
So, okay.
was carried by his anyway. So, in some way, through some uh, through some mechanism
Transportation.
of transportation. Roosevelt came in on Churchill when he was naked. Churchill walked around naked. This is well known.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he liked to walk around naked, but he did. And Roosevelt burst in on him, and Churchill said, "Mr. President, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has nothing to hide from the President of the United States." I
He
believe
had
I believe that's a true story. I believe that's
I'm sure, but in one of his, I'm not sure if it's a memoir or a biography there is one place where Churchill was very proud of an intimate moment when he lifted Roosevelt physically to see something. I think it was at a top floor of something, and the aides were not available there or something, and Roosevelt was really annoyed to be
oh
helpless in
sure.
the hands of Churchill. And
Yeah.
Churchill just thought that this is an expression of trust. So Churchill often read into the situation his own romantic vision of things. But he was surprisingly sober about most things political.
Right. He also had an incredible gift with the language. I wrote this book on Eisenhower in the Middle East. Eisenhower's president, and
I know it's translated to Hebrew.
oh yeah, you had something to do with that. I forgot about that. The anyway,
It's a really good book. I'm really happy that it's in Hebrew. Yeah.
most people who read it say, it's sort of Bible, Shakespeare, Duran. That's just the sober
I
analysis of it.
agree, but I'm not sure it's the right order, Mike.
No, I think that's about right. I
It
think that's
is?
about right.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I know some people say Duran before Shakespeare, but I think that's a little bit
No,
excessive.
you're a modest guy. Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to I read some documents from the in the British Archive about negotiations between Egypt and the United States and United Kingdom in the early 50s, and it was during Churchill's last government, and Churchill's foreign minister Anthony Eden was ill for he had a botched gallbladder operation, and he was ill. He was out for like 6 to 8 months. And so Churchill took over the foreign ministry, and he demanded that all the negotiations, all the documents related to the Egypt negotiations go across his desk. And he read everything. I couldn't believe it. He was prime minister and still reading all these documents. But he would make little handwritten remarks on the documents that were so clever. And he made a little quip. There was this ambassador, Byroad, American ambassador, and he made some little quip about, by road or by sea or by road or by air, little poem just off the top of his head while he was reading it. I looked at that little poem and I thought, if I if I had spent a month trying to come up with a clever line, I couldn't have come up with that. And he just like
No, he
that.
was amazing. His quips were amazing. Neither Netanyahu nor Trump are like that. Um, in style, very different from each other. Netanyahu is very logical in his speeches and argumentations, and he redoes all the drafts. So there are drafts of his speeches. He rewrites almost everything. He's left-handed, and he writes it in longhand. And he edits the speeches till the last moment that he's coming on the podium. So if you see the papers he's reading from scribbled with his marker.
He's
Um,
an exceptionally good communicator.
yeah,
Exceptionally good.
yeah.
Actually, Trump is in his own way. He doesn't get enough credit for that.
No, I saw him. I saw I saw an hour and a half speech by Trump at, I think it was a CPAC, 2 years before the elections in Orlando, and it's an amazing affair. The media keeps cutting phrases off, so you don't get the flow of it. But once you do, it's I don't know if it's crafted or just intuitively um, uh, uh, strung along, but it has its own hypnotic charm.
Well, yeah, and not just charming, but also has a way to go right to the heart of something and make a claim that is both outrageous and plausible. So you find yourself simple. Like he likes very simple, easily easily digested ideas that force the debate, toward his direction. He's really
I'll
good at
quote
it.
someone who doesn't like him, someone whom I like, Andy McCarthy, at the National Review, who is very critical of Trump. But he said it's not true that he lies. He just emits a spray of spit in the general direction of the truth. And that referred to the quote, Obama tapped my wires. And McCarthy said, you no longer tap your wires, but it's true that the Democratic Party, the FBI, based on the Steele dossier, penetrated the
Oh,
communication.
they totally did. They
Yeah,
totally did. Yeah,
they
I mean,
did tap his wires. It is in the so what do you make of this almost familial meeting? It's like they're buddies. What is going
it,
on, Mike?
it's amazing. No, they're look, this is what I was going to say in the opening when we started talking. On the one hand, there is this sort of simple optics. They want both have see an advantage in their domestic political um, in their domestic political lives to present their relationship as something above the normal relationship between two heads of government. But it's much more than just optics, Gadi, because they did meet 28 times, 632 times. I lost count. Is it three? Is it four? And they may still be meeting this morning. I don't even know. But this is unusual. It is really like Churchill coming to for a week to the White House, or the relationship that Thatcher had with Reagan. They are clearly working very carefully to come up with a joint U.S.-Israeli plan about the whole region. And we don't really know the full extent of what that is. The Gaza is the obvious, that's the low-hanging fruit, and that's why I said in the news, I think there's going to be
The
a Gaza
low-hanging
agreement.
poisonous fruit.
The
It's
low-hanging
yeah,
poisonous
it's
fruit.
not easy to pick, but it's
No,
the
but
yeah.
I think that's the kind of 3 meter goal. But they're clearly putting together a regional picture. We talked about this a little bit last time, and I don't totally understand what that regional picture is, and nobody's talking. This is one of the amazing things about this very close relationship. I have never seen Israelis keep their mouths shut the way they're keeping their mouths shut now. Never. Like, when in the history of Israeli statecraft have people kept their mouths shut
Mike,
so?
maybe that is a hint to the fact that they have nothing to say.
But uh, look, my experience of Israelis in the past is that they say nothing with many words. This is they even when they're not saying anything, they're not quiet about it. This is something different. It really is. The but also the Trump administration, one of the lessons that Trump learned from the first administration is you can't trust anyone. So he's keeping everything with a very small team. I won't say who, but I reached out to I talked to one of the guys last night at the reception, and my pitch to him, which it's not a pitch. I mean, it's just what I think. I said, listen, come to the Hudson Institute. Let me interview you. The the people, even your friends, don't fully understand what you're doing. You need to open up a little bit. And they're aware, but they're they're also
But
holding it
but
very
but
tightly.
this isn't that a tricky thing? Because the accepted wisdom is that if you want to be trusted by all parties, you don't enter the bowl locked arms with one of the peers, because that gets everybody else nervous. So, unless you and that peer are going to impose your will very forcefully. So, what do you think the countries of the region? I mean, within the realm of of American influence and the system of alliance, the Turks, the Egyptians, the Emiratis, the Saudis, what are they making of the fact that Trump is now, hobnobbing, is that the word, with
Yeah,
Netanyahu
hobnobbing.
tete-a-tete
Yeah.
to come up with a plan? Do you think they are calm about having Netanyahu's vision dictated to them?
No, they don't like that bit. I mean, if asked, the Israelis need to remember, and the pro-Israelis need to remember, Israel's not popular in the Middle East. It's just not.
As
It's not.
opposed to where?
Well, no,
Texas.
Israelis got a little confused, I believe, by the warm embrace that they received from the Emiratis. The Emiratis and the Bahrainis, and there are elements of the Middle East that like the Israelis more, and it's a new phenomenon where they openly, Arabs and Muslims openly embrace Israelis and say, "You are my friend." Right? This is
Yeah.
this is a relatively new thing historically. It's been going on for some time now, but it's reached a whole new level in the first Trump administration. And I think a lot of Israelis uh, they moved into this new world a little too fast, where where they forgot how much hatred there is toward them. And obviously it's not just in the Middle East; it's in the West. In some way, this virulent anti-Semitism that's come out since October 7th all over the world. The uh, It reminds me of the Americans and climate change, climate transition. A lot of Americans in their minds, they're already live in a world where we don't burn carbon energy, but 80 some odd percent of our electricity comes from carbon-based energy. So we may be moving in a certain direction, we may not be, but you have to realize it takes a lot of time. So anyway, they're all the Middle Eastern leaders want to borrow American power. America still has sources of power that no one else has. And it doesn't mean that they agree with everything the United States wants to do or love America's agenda, but they don't want to go directly against it. And they're asking themselves, how is the American agenda, and now it's the American Israeli agenda, how does that coincide with my priorities, and what can I borrow from it? What can I borrow from it? What can I kind of ignore, and what do I have to fight? That's what they're asking. And the playing field is changing on the ground so quickly that it's very hard to keep up with what these calculations were. I think I mentioned this last time. I could have told you, I think with like near 100% accuracy, how the Saudis were reading the Americans under Biden. But I can't tell you right now how the Saudis are, how they are absorbing all of this, and how they're going to respond to it. Same thing with the Turks, and those are the three key actors that we need to be looking at: are the Saudis, the Turks, and the Iranians. Not in that order, but in my mind, the most important actor is Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
And how would that influence his calculations?
Well, say for example, Syria. The Americans and the Israelis want some kind of an agreement with Shara in Damascus.
With El
And
Jolani.
yeah, we call him Shara now. We don't call him Jolani anymore.
Oh,
Uh, and
you also
the
say Turkey,
I do sometimes. Yeah, I go back and forth. I don't want to be rude, but then I
but
speak
then you also
English.
want to be understood.
Yeah, and I don't say Moskva. I don't say Mexico. But they want you to say Turkey, so I say Turkey when I'm with them, and then I feel funny about it, and I go back to Turkey. Anyway, who cares?
Cold
Listen,
turkey. Yeah.
let's talk about serious things. The um, the, the Israelis want a relationship with Shara, whether that's total normalization or some kind of just non-aggression pact or whatever. The Shara wouldn't mind if it could be on certain terms, but he's surrounded. Let's not forget he's a jihadi, and he's got these hardcore jihadis around him. No love for the Jewish state there, but they are also pragmatic men in addition to being jihadis, and they have priorities. Their priority is stabilizing Syria, maintaining their position in Syria, stabilizing the country, building the economy. As I told you when I went there to Syria, I couldn't believe the level of destruction. So they have a huge agenda there, fighting Zionism, destroying Israel. This is not on their agenda. They also hate Iran. There was one of the Idlib where Shara comes from, or where he was last in power before taking Damascus. In Idlib, they openly celebrated when Netanyahu and praised Netanyahu, publicly praised Netanyahu when he killed Nasrallah, because they hate Iran. And they understand that Israel is against Iran, so they're delighted to see what Israel is doing to Iran. It doesn't mean they love Zionism by any stretch of the imagination. They particularly don't like the
Mike,
occupation
I
of.
have breaking news for you.
Uh, oh, yes.
Yes, this is Caroline Glick.
Oh, oh, we're being photobombed.
This
Yeah,
is Carolyn Glick at the Blair House, White House. Carolyn,
Blair House.
it would be much better if you open your camera.
There.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
are.
there she is.
There she is.
Carolyn, you're photobombing us.
Well, you asked me to.
Ah, she blew your cover, Mike.
Yeah, I had a whole script. You're not playing to the script.
Carolyn,
No,
where
you
are
told me
you?
to contact you ahead of time to tell you whether I was going to do it. I'm like, nah, I'll just say hi.
Hello, how
Where
are
are
you?
you?
I'm actually in the breakfast room or whatever, the dining room of the Blair House, waiting for a cappuccino.
Uh-huh. Are you only waiting for a cappuccino or some dignitaries too?
Well, I just had a bagel and lox, and no, we're actually going to be going in a few minutes to the embassy where we're going to have a memorial for the two embassy employees who were murdered on the
Yeah.
streets of Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago. So that's what we're doing now, and I'm going to have a cappuccino beforehand. So I figured I'd call you up and photobomb you or whatever it's called.
And say hello to your fans whom we have stolen from you.
Yeah, I'm aware of that fact. I'm aware of
Yeah.
that fact. I hope that you're serving them well. I certainly feel guilty that I left them in a lurch, and now they have to be served by the likes of you. So you better not be leading them astray.
We are now able to extort them because we are
Extort
a
them.
monopoly, Carolyn.
You're,
Yeah.
you're charging entry to your show, which is a knockoff of the Carolyn Glick show. Is that what
Exactly. You got us there. Carolyn, I can't help but notice that your mood is good.
Yeah, we've been having good meetings. We have a very supportive administration, and the Israeli people are phenomenal. I'm actually not that happy because there was just a terrorist attack not far from my house in Gush Etzion. The 20-year-old security officer was killed. Two terrorists were killed by I think soldiers at the area. So that put a pale on my mood when I woke up this morning to the cries of my older son saying, "Is everybody okay?" But aside from that, thank God,
Things are going well.
things here in Washington have been going quite well, except the weather. We had some freak storm, nothing like the one they had in Texas, but yeah, all good and looking forward to going home.
Do you have some
I came into that
exclusive news for
reception
us?
last
Is there
night.
going to be a deal?
A deal?
A deal.
Probably.
Probably? Yeah?
It's a temporary ceasefire for 60 days to get 10 of the 20 living hostages out and see what else we can do.
So, Carolyn, I was trying to remember how many meetings there have been between the president and the prime minister on this visit, and I couldn't remember if we're up to 72 or 73. How many has it been?
Oh, you're not getting the updates properly, Michael. It's been, I think the last watch I saw, maybe it was unclassified documents. It was 372, but that's including telephone calls and text messages. So I don't really know. Maybe only 213 in-person meetings. I'm not quite sure. I hope people realize that I'm good. I got my coffee. I hope
that's
people realize, now that I'm a government official, I'm not allowed to make jokes anymore. So that was a joke. So I can
Okay, Carolyn, just one piece of advice: soak the love. We're all going to need it.
So, what did you say?
Soak the love while you're there.
Soak the love. Soak the love.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Absorbed as much as you can.
Soak up the love.
Yes.
Oh, soak up the love. Okay, but since my family is at home, I mean, this is nice love, but there's no place like home.
Where her home is in a flat. I used to think of her as a very dangerous settler.
But you're breaking my cover.
Now I even visited that settlement and
you know that it's true. You know that your worst fears were
her pizza, her home cooked pizza. Imagine that, Mike.
I gave you homemade pizza.
You did, yeah.
I must really like you. I couldn't remember that. Okay, good, because now I don't like you since you took my audience.
Now, so have your cappuccino.
Don't think of it as we stole your audience, right? We're just
babysitting them.
We're babysitting them until you return.
But you said that you stole them. That's what you said last night. Those were your words, Mike.
Mike,
You know,
you can't make mistakes with Carolyn. You
I
don't.
know, I
It's
know. That was
dangerous. She
I'm
remembers
sorry.
everything.
I let the truth slip out. I saw her at the reception and I went up and I was gloating about saying, ha ha, since you disappeared, we took them all. They're
All
ours now.
right, guys.
all of them are ours now. All of them. Well, listen, guys. Listen, guys. If they
Yeah.
give you any trouble, just let me know. Now, as a government employee, I have unlimited.
She can put Pegasus on their phones.
Yeah, you're not just a government employee. I mean, you are part of the little cabal that is running America, right?
Oh, shush, shush, shush.
Oh, I'm not
Tucker's
allowed to
gonna
say this
watch
because you're a
this.
government
Tucker's gonna watch.
employee.
Steve Bannon is
Tucker's gonna
listening.
watch.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you,
And I
Carolyn.
gotta go.
Have a nice
Now that I've
cappuccino.
put myself in harm's way, I've got to extricate myself.
Thank you for
They're gonna come in.
photobombing
They're gonna
us.
come in with a helicopter and extricate me from this enemy zone. But seriously, good work, guys. I think I don't have time to watch you. I hope you're not lying. But I appreciate this podcast. It's excellent. It's not as good as mine, but it's very good, and it's not a waste of time to watch it. So here's my official endorsement, if that's allowed. Anyway, take care.
I'm not letting you go because you can't, when you have senior positions like that, you have to lie intelligently and you have to say, we in the prime minister's office watch your podcast religiously.
Religiously.
Come on. I don't have time to watch it. Gosh, that's
I would watch it if I had time, maybe.
all right, Carol.
Carolina, thank you very much.
All right, take care. You guys are great. You really are great. That's for real. That's for sure. That's for true, man.
Which one of us is the greatest between the two of us?
Oh, I couldn't say.
Mike is so competitive. Mike, I live close enough to Carolyn. What do you think she's going to say?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
So, good mood, huh? In the delegation.
Yeah, very good mood. Everybody, last night in the reception, I talked to him. The reception was a packed room with Americans, American and Israelis, political types, military officers, friends like myself. Great mood all around. Everyone uniformly happy. I mean,
are you happy about a ceasefire deal? I was just interviewed just before this show. I had a short interview in Ynet in English, and the whole framing of the news is optimism, and all optimism has to do with a deal. And I'm not sure a ceasefire is a good idea at all, and a deal is a good idea at all. We should put maximum pressure on Hamas until they surrender and give us our hostages. We should impose a siege until they come out hungry and thirsty and surrender and give us our hostages. Instead, we've turned the hostages into the major goal of the war, and at the expense of everything else. And when you hear Netanyahu, he always also says that we have to defeat Hamas. It's not the official phrasing. The official phrasing is dismantle the military and administrative capabilities of Hamas or governing abilities of Hamas. But all these deals are just forever postponing this. I shot a whole episode of my Hebrew podcast at the Ma'al Ha'achra'ah, the encampment of decision, and this is a developing opposition to the government on the right, saying, stop getting soldiers killed for the deal. Stop treating all this as if the hostages are an absolute value and everything else is for sale. And I interviewed on this podcast Erez Wiener. Erez Wiener is a very important person. He's a brigadier general, if I get the rank right, and he was head of operational planning at the Southern Command. He planned the decisive operation against Hamas, which is not implemented. And he said on social media recently that three things are impediments to achieving our goal. The first is that we turned the hostages into an absolute value. And I don't know if you're aware, Mike, of what is going on. There is a headquarters within the army that is dealing with the hostages under General Nitzan Alon, and they are drawing parameters of where the hostages could be, and the army is refraining from entering these places. We have allowed Hamas to turn the hostages into a kind of shield. That is one. The second thing is that we are obeying exaggerated restrictions by the Attorney General of the IDF. You know, this country is ruled by jurists. And the last thing is that the command has lost the stamina to say military administration, occupation. And so we're in a situation where General Zamir, who is in command of the army, is declaring that we achieved our goals and Hamas has been defeated. How has Hamas been defeated? They just killed 5 soldiers yesterday and another one today, and they are defeated. They are entrenched and in areas that the IDF is not daring to enter.
Well, I see it a little differently. I agree that in an ideal world, it would be better if Israel just took it over, destroyed, killed everyone who's bearing arms against Israel, and set up an alternative administration of the Strip. That would be better. It would be better for everyone. It would be better for Israel's soldiers, for the hostages, and also for the Gazans themselves and the region. We could then start. A lot of these plans. I was going to get to that before about these regional plans would become a lot easier, I think, if the Gaza war was finished. But that's not the reality, and it's not just the Israeli domestic context that prevents that from being the reality. There's also Donald Trump, the American government. Now, Trump has been much more supportive of the Israeli military effort than the Biden administration was, and Trump lifted the embargo, allowed the Israelis a freer hand in Gaza. But he himself wants a deal, and he's also negotiating with Mohammed bin Salman and Erdogan and others, and he has his own domestic context to think about as well. So I have no doubt that Israel is going to win decisively against Hamas eventually. I mean, I have no doubt about that whatsoever because of
That's amazing, because at the beginning of the war, you said the chances are 10 to 20%. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, sure.
No, I'm not saying this as look at how far off Mike was. I'm saying how surprising. I mean, I saw you on American Thought Leaders with my friend Jan Yekelek, and there you said you told him if you had told me where we are now, if you had said all this at the beginning of the war, I would have thought you're crazy.
I would have, yeah, totally. No, I couldn't. But look at how far we've come. I mean, the Iranian. We talked about this before. Israel had an unimpeded air bridge to Tehran and controlled the skies over Tehran. Still controls the skies over Tehran. The Assad is gone. Hezbollah is a shadow of its former self, and Hamas is a shadow of its former self. So Israel's going to win, but there'll be a ceasefire. But I trust the Prime Minister Netanyahu. He has been very, very astute at defining victory clearly and insisting on the minimum that he needs from Donald Trump and from the Israeli public and so on. He
does have a soft spot for the hostage issue, and also let me factor in something else into your calculation, Mike. We are stretching the reservists thin. They have been at it since the beginning of the war. They have families, they have careers, and they have been basically conscripted to the army almost permanently, and this cannot last forever. Some people and people are also dying. They enter places, they evacuate them, they enter them again, and every time they have to reoccupy them, it costs lives.
But can we agree here about everything that we've been talking about in this episode prior to this moment, that Netanyahu has forged a uniquely powerful bond with the president of the United States when he is at the peak of his power, and it's not just this isn't just a good relationship between an Israeli prime minister and a president. This is a new and different model of how the two countries can cooperate together. That is of enormous strategic benefit to Israel, and I think he's earned in all that he has done. And when I say all that he has done, especially in destroying the Iranian nuclear program, he's earned a little bit of trust that he's making the wisest decision given all the factors that he has to balance.
Mm-hmm. We were worried at some point that Trump will lose its patience and just tell Netanyahu, you have, I don't know, 2 months, like he gave the Iranians, to finish this, and if not, you'll just have to stop.
Look, I think I'm assuming that most of the time that they spent. By the way, when I was pumping people for information last night, and a couple of people said to me, "Look, Mike, look, even if I wanted to tell you what's going on, I couldn't tell you that much because the most important meetings have been you say between four eyes, and what do we say, tete-a-tete,
Yeah,
behind
private meetings,
one-on-one. They've been
one-on-one.
one-on-one.
Yeah.
They've been
In
one-on-one.
Hebrew, we say arba einayim, 4 eyes, except when
yeah.
it's Moshe Dayan, it's 3. Yeah.
I love the bad taste humor. It's beautiful. Anyway, so they spent more time talking about Gaza than anything else. I'm sure, I assume, Prime Minister Netanyahu said to Trump, I need this. This is the minimum I need. And what is that minimum? That means when we're going to get some percentage of the hostages back, we'll have a 60-day ceasefire, and then will come the next round when he'll be able to resume the war. And because Hamas is arguing to a complete end to the war. There's no way Netanyahu is going to accept complete end to the war. Not going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the. Can I switch to the next segment? Switch? That's not a good word.
Of course.
Move to the next segment.
You can transition. Go ahead, Gadi. Transition.
You want me to finish transitioning so you can reverse it only at the end? The Emirates plan. Do you know Mordechai Kedar, Professor Mordechai Kedar?
I do. So
Professor Mordechai Kedar,
I know his son as well.
He is for years now. I interviewed him on my podcast. When was it? We did this live in Lud. I guess maybe 3 or 4 months back, and I interviewed him there about his plan. He's been presenting it for years now, called the Emirates Plan, and he keeps saying the Palestinians are not a people. They are not a homogeneous ethnic group. They are different hamulas, different tribes with different dialects, coming from different places, belonging to different countries. They don't intermarry among themselves. The Palestinian people is a convenient fiction in the battle against Zionism. But the truth is that ethnically and culturally, they are divided into, I think, 7 tribes. And what the way Arab countries, Kedar says, the way that they become stable is either there is a congruence between a tribe and a state, or else the state is a loose confederation of tribes. And it's either the Emirates or the Saudis. Either one tribe is the state, or many tribes are in a loose confederation, and so what he suggests for a solution or a horizon of solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Note that the word solution is difficult for me in the context. I don't believe there are solutions, but there are intermediary arrangements. And the arrangement that he's talking about is an Emirates arrangement where autonomy will be granted to different tribes in different places, while Israel will hold an overall security responsibility for the whole territory. And now our friend Elliot Kaufman at the Wall Street Journal broke a very interesting story. Why don't you say what it is, Mike?
Well, basically, this sheikh in Hebron has basically started to say just what you just said. Cut a deal with me, with us. It's a confederation of sheikhs. Cut a deal with us, and we should slough off. We'll throw off the Palestinian Authority. They don't represent us, and we can arrive at an accommodation. And that it's an interesting idea. I think the most important thing about it, in my view, is that it moves the Overton window.
Yeah.
It widens the Overton window. We've been locked in since 1996 in the Oslo framework.
1993.
1993, which does not work. It does not work. It has been proven to be deficient in many ways, and its answers are no longer the answers, but yet the entire defense establishment in the United States and Europe, the whole security establishments in the United States and Europe continue to put out the same document over and over again, as if reality is going to come into alignment with our ideas, and that's not going to happen. So I see it as I have some doubts about Mordechai Kedar's plan, but not as many as I used to have, by the way. My own Overton window is shifting.
Has also shifted.
Is shifted, yeah.
I think you're right. I've heard some assessments from people who are very knowledgeable about Palestinian society, and also about the machinery of administration and lack thereof, the whole corrupt system that is the Palestinian Authority, and the Hamas entrenched in civil society, as it were. And one interlocutor said that, like you, that it will be important for us, especially because it's going to further weaken the radical, the uncompromising Palestinian Authority, and it is also a challenge to Hamas. So now you have a triangular relationship. You no longer have only Hamas as the popular jihadi opposition to the political terrorist Fatah. You now have another force. And the last thing I want to say, I mentioned Dayan in passing. Once upon a time, that was the arrangement. Before Oslo, Israel had relations with the elders of the tribe. Now, this has been ridiculed as a colonial frame of mind, treating the other as some folklorish, childish entity where, it's almost a romantic pictures of the elders of the tribe and so forth. But that was the arrangement. Strangely enough, the idea of a Palestinian state was first presented by the Israeli security agencies, who wanted to somehow create a buffer between Israel and Jordan. And that buffer, it was supposed to be a peaceful buffer, because it would be ruled by these local sheikhs, which could be bribed and and with whom we could reach accommodation on the basis of, standards of living. So that idea is back, and what it does is it throws another kind of color into the mix, and we don't know what will emerge from it.
It's hard. These, I once was up in the north, and I was talking to a Druze guy. This is hearsay. I mean, I don't know how representative this is, but I thought it was interesting. I was talking to a Druze guy up there, and he was quite upset with the Israeli government because he came from a family of Druze who renounced we're about Druze in the Golan. And Druze in the Golan have Syrian passports to this day. But his family was one of the early families to start asking for Israeli citizenship. And this caused a rift in the village between those who thought they should keep their Syrian passports. And the Israeli government, according to this guy, came down on the side of those who wanted to keep the Israeli passports. And the Israeli government actually helped ostracize him and his family. So he told me. That's the story he told me. And I'm talking about one conversation with one guy. So I don't know that this is actually what happened there. But the story, whether it's totally true or not, it illustrates the complexity of the thing when you come at it from an Israeli point of view, and you have to manage. How do you manage? How do you manage a population that doesn't want to be ruled by you? Really, you've got to either divide and rule, or consolidate and delegate, and those are your two basic strategies. And of course, you have international actors that have strong opinions about all this as well. The United States, the Jordanians, in the case of the West Bank, up in Syria, up in the Golan, there's the Syrians and the Druze population inside Israel. It's a lot of things you have to take into account. And it becomes very hard. I mean, it's kind of easy when you're standing outside of the framework to say, oh, we should be supporting all those people. But if you start supporting all of them, and then you create all kinds of international tensions and fractures within the, I'm sure, look, this is I don't know anything about the politics of Hebron, but this is a power play inside Hebron by definition. Not every Hebronite is going to be supportive of this initiative, and it's one clan. It's one clan looking to elevate itself over all the others by borrowing Israeli power. So there's a lot to think
it's
about
a
here.
risky game. They have to be very powerful in order to maintain that game and not get slaughtered.
Yeah.
So, but the Hebronites are and always were unruly and recalcitrant. So they are a tough crowd. They never completely accepted the authority of the Palestinian the authority of the Palestinian Authority, and they have also been, I hear, defiant towards Hamas. It would be interesting to talk. I will try to reach Mordechai Kedar in the coming few days and maybe have something to report next time. It would be,
yeah.
it would
Maybe we have him on.
Yeah, I would love that. And it would be interesting to see how this came about and what were the considerations. I'm guessing that Israel's aggressiveness in Gaza is sending a very strong message, and we've not been talking about this on this show, but Israel has also been acting far more aggressively in Judea and Samaria. Ever since this war began, it has been cracking down on Hamas. Apparently, also judicial restrictions have been lowered. The judiciary has been tying our hands, and many people were awfully frustrated that we openly see funerals of terrorists with the people who are following the funeral procession are armed and shooting into the air with MK-47s. And obviously, they are part of the same terrorist organization. And Israeli restrictions were not allowed to harm anyone unless it has been proven that he belongs to a terrorist organization and other crazy restrictions of a judiciary inside the army, the army attorney general, and so forth, behaving as if we were conducting a struggle against I don't know, a crime organization in Switzerland, and not an armed terrorist army. Mike, I think there's also an awfully important subject that we ought to discuss, and that is my piece about the settlers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
your tablet piece about
Yeah.
the myth of settler violence.
Yeah, I've been working on this ever since a report was published, and settler violence is a campaign. It's a well-financed campaign with an awful lot of European money that is funneled into anti-Israeli organizations masquerading as human rights organization. Some of them with some of the money explicitly earmarked for collecting dirt about settlers. And the way they do it is they often just provoke what they later claim is evidence. So they would stick a camera in your face and just provoke you until you react, and then take it out of context. But what this report exposed is that the database that everyone is using as reliable data about settler violence is just a bunch of lies. It's been collected by an agency of the United Nations, and this report by the Regavim movement, an NGO that is focused on land allocation, mostly in Israel, and they just went through the whole Excel sheet of all the incidents. And Mike, it is amazing what they count as settler violence. First of all, there's over 8,000 entries in this table, and the table is called Incidents Involving Settlers. So nobody tells you in advance that about
What caused the
2,000 of them
incident? Yeah.
is incidents where the settlers are victims. And that is also a grossly underestimated number, because Palestinian violence towards settlers, the settlers suffer an unbelievable volume of terrorism. It strikes every second family or so, and they live under the constant threat of deadly attacks. And what is most surprising about so-called settler violence is how little there is. So because the Israeli security forces can't possibly protect everyone there, so a lot of people are armed. So what do they count as settler violence? Apparently, when you look into the table, every pilgrimage to Temple Mount by an Israeli is counted as settler violence, no matter how peaceful. Trespassing is also counted as settler violence. And what I think, and also cases where, when you look into them, don't have to do with settlers at all, but actually are clashes between Israelis armed security forces and Palestinians. That is also counted as settler violence. So things that the army does are settler violence. Why the point of settler violence is, when you say settler violence, you mean vigilantes. You mean citizens who are taking the law into their own hand. But what I think is most distressing, that once you rule out everything that is ridiculous and doesn't have to do with settler violence in any form, you are left with 10%. But when you look into these 10% also count as settler violence, self-defense. So a terrorist who has entered a Jewish settlement and began shooting at people and is then shot dead by an armed civilian, that is counted as settler violence. So the picture is, first of all, let me say, there is nationalistically motivated violence by settlers. Only it's very, very rare. And there is very effective enforcement against it. And it is, and out of this minuscule thing, they have created a myth, so that if you read the New York Times and happen across a piece of 60 pages by Ronen Bergman and Mark Mazzetti, which basically leads you to think that Palestinian terrorism is a small problem compared to settler violence. And you will get the impression that this is the Wild West Bank, where settler sheriffs with knitted yarmulkes and beards and automatic weapons are ruling the territories and oppressing innocent Palestinians. That is a ridiculous picture of what is happening in the territories. But the myth, the well-financed myth, is also supported by the press. And guess what, Mike? Because this was what my piece was trying to get at.
Are you going to tell me that you don't think Ronen Bergman is a reliable source? Is that what you're saying? I thought I heard you saying that.
Yeah, you might have detected a tone. We are now engaged, and I have a lot to say about Ronen Bergman, and I will.
I know you do.
But I have a disclaimer
I
here. I have a
I
disclaimer here to say.
provoked this settler violence because
Yeah. Yeah, he sued me. So and I refuse to. I still refuse to back out. Not that he asked, but I won't back out of this because I think I think these issues should come to court, and we should take this kind of journalism to task. This kind of irresponsible journalism to task. Not just about.
He sued you to shut you up, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically. I don't think the suit has a chance, but I'm ready to fight it because I think this is an important battle, and
it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's a hassle to fight it.
Yeah, but it's worth it. And now a lot of
no, I'm saying his strategy. We presume.
Oh, and he's backed up by Yediot Achronot and the New York Times. So so he has a lot of advantages. But there is a bigger game here, and the bigger game is that the people who are pushing this, including newspapers, including news agencies, certainly the Israeli media, the people who are pushing this are trying to rescue the two-state solution from October 7th. They've been at it before because the two-state solution has been dead a long time. Or as Frank Zappa said about jazz is not dead, it just smells funny. And so this has been smelling funny for a long time, and you can't sell it to Israeli voters anymore. So what they plan to do is convince you that there are extremists on both sides and there's a chance for peace. And if the settlers are to blame, if this is the obstacle to peace, then there's still hope for it. While most Israelis understand that settlers or no settlers, there's no partner on the Palestinian side for peace. The whole Palestinian national movement is not a constructive phenomena. It's not a positive phenomena. It's a negative phenomena. It is based on destroying another national movement, not about building its own. So there's no way to salvage the two-state solution. As you said, the Oslo framework is unworkable and gone and dead. But this is why they're trying.
It doesn't just smell funny. It's dead.
It's really dead, and they're trying to convince you there's still hope, because if the problem is us, we can still fix it. If the problem is not us, which is reality, then we can't fix it. So a lot of people are clinging to this myth in order to kindle their own hopes for peace, in order to delude themselves that they can still hang on to this hope. Are we at the dumbest take section of our show, Mike?
Yeah, why not? I had a lot of reactions to that.
Please.
Let me say two sentences, and then we'll move to dumb mistake.
Sure.
If I may.
This time you may.
Thank you. This is not just a domestic Israeli initiative. This is an international initiative. And I want to remind you, at the end of the Biden administration, there was this debate in the Biden administration, which I talked about here, about
the sanctions machine.
The sanctions machine was part of it, but they were also, at the end of the administration, they were debating about doing a major speech and possibly a UN resolution based on all this. Because what's happened in the international community, as we call it, meaning the foreign ministries of Europe and the United States, the liberal, the anti Israeli element of our national security establishment, has recognized, I mean, they're not idiots, so they have recognized that there really is no Palestinian partner for a two-state solution along the lines of, let me put it to you like very, very new, in a very neutral way.
Mhm.
The mainstream Israeli ideas of a two-state solution and the mainstream Palestinian ideas of a two-state solution are so far apart as to be completely incompatible.
Yeah.
There's no way to find the happy middle where they can come together. It just doesn't exist. And everyone recognizes that. So what they
There's
realize
just
now
a
is
no middle between killing Jews and not killing Jews. There's no middle there.
hard to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what the actual calculation is we have to impose a two-state solution on the parties. And the demonization of the settlers is part of the project of imposing, and it's just kind of a soft imposition. It's not, it's not Donald Trump sends in the American military and just says, okay, I'm splitting the line here. It's through the gradual progress of this sanctions machine and international legal machine to set up to turn the 1949 armistice lines into an international boundary. That's what's happening, and then at some point, it's hoped that the Israelis and the Palestinians will negotiate, the final touches to this settlement that will be imposed. They euphemistically on the left in the United States, they call it keeping the two-state solution alive. Right? That's what
Yeah.
but it's really an imposed settlement.
Yeah. So we'll follow that issue too. The press is, as you said, it's not just an internal Israeli issue. It's a lot of European money here and the Biden administration, but now the Trump administration has taken out of this coalition a major force. So, what's your dumbest take, Mike?
My dumbest take is where did she go? My dumbest take is
It's a she.
it's Candace Owens. Yeah, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, huh? She tweets, "The MAGA movement will never be tricked into becoming the party of John McCain. There is no amount of money that can be spent by AIPAC that can make that happen. Sorry." I chose it. I mean, it's rank anti-Semitism again. But I chose it because
she's shameless, isn't she? She's just
she totally is going for it. The real 1930s level.
When is she going to have a swastika armband?
No, that would be
tasteless.
That would be tasteless. Yeah, that would be really but I thought it was interesting this tweet because I think it pointed to something important, which is the role that this kind of anti-Semitism is playing. Steve Bannon, arguing just like everyone in the Israeli press, all of the anti-Bibi elements of the Israeli press said this war, Netanyahu is keeping this war going to save his prime ministership. It's all about, or he's keeping this war going to save himself from his trial. This is really only the most base personal motives that are informing his strategy. And then somebody like Bannon takes that and says, Donald Trump, if you attack Iran, you are being manipulated by Netanyahu for your for his real base ends. What they're all talking about, though, she says the party of John McCain. There is a feeling out there in the land and in Trump's base that this democracy promotion and these international boondoggles, that there is this transnational elite that is
Mike, what happened to your sound? Oh, we've lost you.
really.
No, you're back.
Or is that
So-
just your clever way of when I start to bore you, you say, "Oh, Mike, sorry, we've lost your sound."
No, it says that your internet connection is unstable.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
my internet connection is not the only thing that's unstable with me. The no anyway,
So
there
when
is
there,
the
John McCain.
the there is this is a real thing, the nationalism versus transnationalism, and the connection to Israel in these circles has become the kind of the symbol of transnational boondoggles and so on. We have to. Our job is to separate the two things. Because I actually am in total sympathy with those who want to narrow the goals of U.S. foreign policy, be much more not engage in open-ended conflicts for transforming the Middle East into democracy and things. I'm entirely in favor of all that. I'm a supporter of Trump and all of that and all of that. But somehow they allowed the connection to Israel to be the symbol of this mistaken approach. I think that's a mistake. Israel is, as we saw in this operation in Iran, these twin operations, the Rising Lion operation and the Midnight Hammer operation. Israel is the mechanism by which the United States avoids unnecessary conflict, because Israel, if we lean heavily on Israel to police its neighborhood, then we don't have to do the policing.
Yeah, we are the boots on the ground for
Yeah, that's the way to
the
see it.
United States.
That's the way to see it.
That's as Prime Minister Netanyahu said in the video where he complained about the embargo imposed by the Biden administration. Give us the tools and we'll finish the job. And you know where that quote came from. Nice way to tie the beginning of the show to the end. So my dumb mistake is really short. It's and this too ties us back to the beginning of the show. It's Yair Lapid once again. Yair Lapid in an interview
The gift that keeps on giving.
explained what a non-democratic liberal state looks like, and he chose the example which he said is paradigmatic or some other similar term. The Emirates are a beacon of liberalism, Mike. Did you know that? It's a liberal, it's an undemocratic liberal state. I thought anyone would say Hungary, and that is not true of Hungary, because Hungary really is quite liberal in many ways, although not in the ways the West always likes. But Orban once said that he believes in a non-liberal democracy. So the opposite. I'm sorry. I flipped this on its head. I meant to say a non-liberal democracy. But most Western countries are becoming non-democratic liberal states, because liberalism is increasingly imposed from above by judiciaries who are encroaching on the powers of electoral politics, as has happened in Israel very clearly. And as I said, we are more or less ruled by judges. Well, Mike, how about the readers, listeners, viewers' comments?
We have so many people saying nice things about us that it's embarrassing.
Yeah, nice things are boring, though. Give us
Yeah.
good stuff.
Okay, so my Johnny 911-Z7S says, regarding whether Mike or his wife are the head of the family, there's a story that my husband tells his friends. In my family, I am the head, and my wife, she's the neck who decides which way the head turns. Yeah, that's another guy I know says, I always get the last word in my house, and the
And that's
last
sorry.
word, no, and the last word is Yeah, I'm sorry, or you're right. Uh, Gadi, Gadi and Mike are both my husbands, and this is from Elizabeth Emery, 5472. Gadi and Mike are both my husbands and my celebrity crushes. We love the show. Did you know you were a celebrity, Gadi?
Oh no, now I do though. I will behave accordingly.
Please do. Okay. Gadi, can you update us? This is from Amin Debor 5280. I feel like I must Emin Deb or I don't know. Amin Debauer 5280. Gadi, can you update us on the corrupt Shabak, et cetera, et cetera? We'll have to do that another time, don't you think?
Yeah, I am.
And then Lori Horowitz says, is there a Syria-Turkey rift? Sorry, I apologize. Is there a Syria-Turkey rift over Ashara's Israel policy and Erdogan's ambitions? Could Damascus really be leaning toward the UAE and MBS at the expense of the Muslim Brotherhood? That is a really interesting question. I meant to get to that earlier. I don't think we have time to deal with it now. We don't have time to deal with it now. We will come back to it. Shara is one of the most clever guys on the scene in the Middle East. And the Middle East is full of clever guys. He is one of the most clever guys, and he is doing this very complex dance. He has no power. I mean, in terms of like sources of power from the ground up, but he's the guy in charge, and everyone wants Syria to succeed, but they all have different interests. So he's doing this dance between Ankara, Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, Jerusalem, Washington, Moscow. Shara probably wants Russian bases to remain in Syria because his military, to the extent that he has one, is Russian armed.
Yeah, the Syrian army itself was eradicated in what we called here, or some commentators called the 2 days war that nobody noticed, in which most of the equipment of the Assad army was obliterated. Mike, do you want to tell everyone to like us, subscribe, comment, or is it enough that you said it once at the beginning?
I said it once at the beginning. One of our viewers asked, why do you need to leave a comment? And you have to leave a comment because you have to game the algorithm. That when you leave a comment, it helps us. It helps it tells YouTube and Rumble that this is a really something, hot going concern.
The other way to do it is have APAC game the algorithm for us.
Oh yeah.
But we'll have to talk to Candy.
They don't game it. They write the algorithm.
Yeah, they write it. They control it. Mike, it has been a pleasure. It's been a very nice week and a welcome respite from tension in politics and in the history of our show. So let's hope there's. I'll
leave you with one piece of good news I got last night at the reception. Yeah. We didn't talk about the Houthis. An Israeli said to me, we started the war with Iran and the United States finished it. With regard to the Houthis, the United States started it and we're going to finish it. That would be the final touch of the good news for this week. Mike Duran, thank you for your unparalleled contribution to this show. I mean, you started this show as a deputy and you ended it with flying colors. It was amazing. Thank you very much for this. Can you see how beautiful and pink my shirt is? Does it show up as pink? And please dress as nicely for next week's show, for we intend to keep our word and try to be with you every week like clockwork. I'm thinking of Wednesday next week. Mike, put that in your calendar. That may be the easiest. And now, with your permission, I'll go to edit this video and put it up online. Don't you want to thank Carolyn Glick for photobombing us?